Good evening. I would like to call the meeting to order. Today is Wednesday, March 11th at 6 p.m. If everyone can please silence their phones. And I would like to make it note that there are 5 planning commissioners present this evening. Will everyone please stand and join us for the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Item number 3 is public comment. I would like to remind everybody in the public that public comment is limited to 3 minutes and 1 time per person. Is there any public comment? Seeing that there is none, we'll go on to item number 4, verification of posting of the agenda.
The agenda was posted on March 5th, 2026, between the hours of 8:30 a.m. and 5 p.m. at the locations noted on the agenda in accordance with NRS.
Thank you. Item number 5 is consideration and possible action regarding approval of agenda as submitted or revised.
Madam Chair, Vic Yansotegi, for the record, I move to approve the agenda as submitted.
There's been a motion, first by Commissioner Yansotegi, second by Commissioner Frey. All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? Pass 5-0. Item number 6, verification of notification of all landowners in accordance with NRS and the Churchill County Code.
There were no applications on the meeting to notify landowners about.
Thank you, Diane. Item number 7 is consideration and possible action regarding approval of minutes of the meeting held on February 11th, 2026, public hearing. I do have a couple amendments that we're going to make on record, and then we can make a motion on the revision. On item number 1 of the minutes for the Churchill County Planning Commission for February 11th, 2026, there were 6 planning commissioners present. We would like to add that Joe Frey was via GoToMeeting. On page number 5, last paragraph, 6 lines up, Chair Edgman, we just need to make a correction on the spelling of the last name. Page 7, Article 4, middle of the document, last sentence, Vice Chair did not refuse himself, he recused himself. And then on page 9, item number 13, public comment, we're going to add to the last paragraph, Chair Edgman asked if Commissioner Frey was able to attend the meeting virtually, and it was stated that he was online at that time. We would like to add, but did not participate in voting. We stated that all votes were passed unanimously, 5-0, but there were 6 present, so we're making it public record. At that time, can I go ahead and ask for a motion then for the revision?
Madam Chair, Joe Frey for the record. I move to approve the minutes of the meeting held on February 11th, 2026, public hearing as currently amended.
Motion by Commissioner Frey, seconded by Commissioner Goings. All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? Passes 5-0. Item number 8, old business. Consideration and possible action regarding review of special use permit, SUP 1082, previously granted on March 13, 2024, to Boulder Opal LLC for expansion of Marshall's Septic Care. The property is located at 4250 Reno Highway, assessor's parcel number 008-461-07. This permit is subject to annual review to confirm compliance with conditions until such time as the Planning Commission determines it no longer necessary. Is there anyone here to speak on behalf of Marshall's Septic Care? Please come forward, have a seat, turn on your mic, and state your name and address for the record.
Touch the red flashing light. No? There was one not working the other day.
Oh, there it goes. We're good. Oh, cool. For Boulder Opal or my name? My name's Chad Marshall, but I represent Boulder Opal for the record. Oh, 4250 Reno Highway.
Thank you.
Or personal address, does that matter?
No,
Just
Mr.
that one,
Business
okay.
Finance. And we'll turn it over to staff, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Randy Hines, Public Works Planning and Building. Last year at the March 12th meeting of 2025, we'd stated that all the conditions of the special use permit have been met except for the ADA accessibility requirements and the landscape requirements of the SUP. In talking with the business to verify if that, at the last meeting, if that stuff was, if those items were complete, then no further review was needed. We had talked with staff at the office, and they informed me that that stuff hasn't been completed and that they have an intention of moving their business to another location. So we had asked them to be present tonight to provide you guys an update on that. With that, I can answer any questions.
Thank you. Is there anything you'd like to add, Mr. Marshall?
So we've decided to kind of move some of our assets to another location, just need a little bit more room to move around. The roll-off site is what we asked for the special use permit for, as well as the septic stuff. But our property is just slowly getting too small, which is a good thing and a bad thing. So we've been spending most of this year focused on that, keeping things going so we can move. So we are gonna, that's the direction we're headed in, is to move. Not everything, we're still gonna have some things there, but we are gonna move from this location with the big truck stuff.
Staff, Director Hines, so are we needing a new, or is this going to be amended? Is this still even in use? Do we still need this SUP?
Yeah, so Dean Patterson for the record. So the SUP was for the septic business and the roll-offs, and from talking to Mr. Marshall earlier, sounds like he wants to move the roll-offs to a new location. Whether you decide to move some of the septic activity, I don't know, that's, figure that out.
Yeah, well, probably the roll-offs is first, for sure.
But it sounds like operations will still be going on in this location, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, you need to wrap this site up, and then, of course, you'll have stuff for your new site that you'll need to work on.
I'd like to open it up to the board for discussion, please.
Madam Chairman, Jeff Goings for the record. So two questions from both staff and from Mr. Marshall. But let's start with staff. So it appears to me he's going to keep the septic system, the septic portion of the business where it is at. He's moving the roll-off portion. Then back to you. The roll-off, the need for the special use permit was not for the business that was existing, correct? It was for the expansion of the business. Am I right on that, Dean?
Well, it's been a couple of years. I think it was for both. I remember there was some discrepancy in the zoning too. Didn't you get a rezone, Mr.
We
Marshall?
rezoned to C2
Right.
from C1.
And so, yeah, I mean, a waste collection business always needs a special use permit. And so it should have been for both.
Okay, so that was going to be my question then. So if we leave this special use permit in place, correct, then the conditions of that special use permit still need to be met. Okay, all right.
And I was-
You're aware of that. That's what I'm trying to, for me, there was a little disconnect there. I wasn't sure if you were moving the business and weren't thinking you need to have these conditions still met.
I think it makes more sense to invest in a bigger property as we continue to grow. So we're going to probably keep both until we could move everything to one. So we're going to have to meet the requirements here, and then if we move, at least the requirements are met.
Okay, so that clarifies that. The thing is there's still conditions that need to be met for this special use permit to remain in place.
Yeah.
And you obviously still need that special use permit for where you're located anyway. Okay, very good. That answers my question.
So I want to clarify. I misunderstood. I thought you were moving the whole business over there.
No,
the
I mean,
discussions I had,
it's big
so-
enough to do that.
Okay.
We've invested quite a bit of money in this for the trucks to park inside, and it's super clean from the road. It looks really nice. So everything, as you can see in the picture, stays behind.
Sure.
So
I just want to point out right, if we still got to do these conditions again, so whatever they say, we're going to do this yearly review or whatever. At the new place, you're probably going to have the same conditions. And
Yeah.
We're going to suggest those get done before you start operating rather than having to chase every year. So just keep that in mind. I mean, you're going to have the same conditions potentially there as well. So.
Yeah, I've been seeing some fencing going up in the neighborhood, so I've been keeping my eye up what everybody's doing.
Dennis Mills for the record. I just sort of want to add on to Randy's point. Mr. Marshall, you've agreed to the terms of a special use permit. It looks like you haven't proceeded on those two items for quite a while. You're going to be coming back to us for another special use permit, and all you're doing at this point is damaging your credibility. I understand you're investing in a new business, but you agreed to do this, so I assume that's going to become an action that gets on your priority list. All right, thank you.
Madam Chair, Vic Ansotigi for the record. Mr. Marshall, so I believe there's a signage issue, septic issue, and landscaping, correct? In order to complete the provisions of the SUP? Sound about right, close?
It's the ADU, and you can see in the picture.
Oh, yeah, and the ADA also.
Yeah, there's because there's such heavy vehicles that drive through there. That was one of our big concerns. Where do you put the concrete that they're going to be driving over? And so where that white car, it looks like a truck that's parked there. That's where the concrete pad will be for the ADU parking. And then we have we have to put in a new sewer line in there just because we're going to cover up the sewer line for the house and for the office that goes underneath those covered areas, and they'll be able to walk from that space into there. That shouldn't take too long to do. The landscaping is difficult only because if you see out towards the front of the road there's a parking area where we park one of our roll-off trucks now, because in the back there it gets pretty full. So the one parks up on the hill, and then in front there's a ditch, and in front of that ditch there's a foot and a half before it's into the easement. So it's really difficult to put anything up front. Maybe you could throw some gravel there. We keep the weeds down and we keep everything behind. We try to keep it as clean from the road because it's really about what it looks like when you drive down the road. So we've been trying to do that the best we can. The ADU stuff or the advanced disability stuff, that's in the works as we speak. So.
Okay, so with that question, usually we see you about every year for the special use permit to make sure you're in compliance. Do you see yourself being done earlier, or do you think a year review would be good for this?
I think the concrete portion is not a big deal. The landscaping is confusing. It's just really difficult to place anything in front of that ditch that's right there. I mean, we can put rock. There's no way to plant a tree by the fence. The fence is right, within a foot and a half from the canal. And that canal, they still use that quite a bit. And it grows a bunch of weeds, so we spray in there so we can kill the weeds that grow. So, and if we put a bunch of big rocks in there, I don't even know. I think you'd have to use a forklift or something over the back side of the fence to set them. That's what people have been doing. I've been seeing up and down the highway, there's rocks. They're just doing a rock bed with some bigger boulders to clean it up. Now, when that roll-off truck moves to the backyard, because the trucks are still going to be there temporarily, because when we move, the point of moving would be to move a lot of the larger empty bins for more storage, and we would still keep a couple back there that they're using that day. So they're still going to check in and out here, and then as we grow over there, because it takes money to do all that stuff, then we would invest in business, more stuff there. Of course, we're going to have to go through the whole process like we're doing here. So,
Thank you, Mr. Marshall.
you're welcome.
I have a question directed towards staff. What exactly is defined in our code as far as what you're looking for landscaping? Because when I went out for an inspection on this, I saw the landscaping that they have outside their front office area where you can see the green trees, and I thought that was an area that was considered for landscaping. I thought it was very clean, and I also thought that was complete. What, in addition to all of the greenery and all of the vegetation that they have right there in front of the office, are you looking for and is specified for a commercial zoning to do on the actual highway under these circumstances?
Well, the only real requirement is the landscape strip along the road. so if you've seen like out west buildings, they have a pretty nice setup that they put in. They use a split rail fence so that there's a decorative element on the wood fence. They did some railroad ties to as border for the rock gravel bed and put some boulders in. So, we're very flexible about what people want to use. Even decorative items like the antique miniature bulldozer that A&K puts out in front. So, pretty much anything. It doesn't have to have plants. It just needs to have something besides dirt. And I usually want like more than one or two things. So like the items I was describing for out west buildings is a good combination. But other people can come up with different ideas too.
Is this requirement inside the fence? Because obviously they have to have a chain link fence for security. Are you want it inside the security fence, or are you asking for it to be in between the fence and the canal that he's talking about?
Normally you'd put it outside the fence because a lot of people put screening, and then of course, what's the point of landscaping inside the screen? But you could put it on the inside too if there was something that was in the way of being in front of the fence. I think, was there a ditch? Were you talking about a concrete ditch? Yeah.
If you guys,
So-
if you
so
did a
that might
visit, you
be-
could see.
That
It's
might be
difficult.
getting in the way, in which case putting it behind the fence would be acceptable too.
And the way the slope is behind the fence, you would literally have to add probably 2 to 3 feet in some spots to build that up to make that work. The property is actually lower than the ditch. That's my biggest concern. I get the ADU thing. We finally figured that out. We worked that issue out. And like I said, time flies, so that's my fault. But I felt like I was just in here the other day. But where that truck's parked, we're going to do that. The landscaping, though, I'd love for you guys to come take a look, and you just tell me what to do in front of the fence, because I don't know. I don't even think I can fit a boulder between the fence and the ditch itself. It wouldn't even fit there.
So, I'm sorry, Jeff, going for the record. And I'm going to come back to what Dean said. I could pick numerous spots around the valley right now where, they thought they couldn't do anything and we're able to come up with something. I just was out there at the transload station, and they have set up some landscaping along that right in front, and it can't cover more than about 4 feet. We can argue on how this looks or not, but even Omaha Track has set up some stuff out there. It doesn't take up much room or whatever. I don't think this board needs to go out and make recommendations. I think there's some things that you can probably do, and I really feel like that you can probably come up with some ideas and some thoughts of this simple stuff, right? It doesn't have to be elaborate. Just need something to kind of dress that area up, and we've been talking about that for years and years in here, and that's kind of the entrance coming into Fallon. We want that to be, eye appealing as we're coming in. It doesn't have to be green. It can be whatever you can come up with. Maybe a couple old outhouses that you find somewhere.
Madam Chair, can I?
We might be able to
What
work
I'll do is
that
I'll
one
get with Mr. Marshall. We'll come out and do a site visit, just check it out, see what we can do. Again, it's typically we kind of leave it to them to come up with a plan. Again, I think he's got some constraints, and I'll just come out there with you.
Just
take a look
we'll
at
just
it.
I'll show you in between
Yeah.
the fence in that area. The ditch erodes a little bit,
Okay.
and so they come through there and they're messing around in there. And if there is some big pipeline stuff in front of the ditch. I know because every time I call, they called me 15 times and they said, "Are you digging in front of that ditch?" And I'm like, "No." So there's stuff in there. We don't want to touch anything in front of that ditch. So we have about 1.5 feet of room between the fence, maybe 2 feet, to deal with before it hits the fence. It's just a difficult little spot. So, we'd put ornamental art out there, but you should see the people that walk by there. They'll sell it to somebody.
I have a couple other questions here. I'm a little bit confused, and I just want to have it reiterated for the record. Is it only the two things that we're looking at? Because I'm looking at the email from Mr. Marshall dated February 16th, and it stated that they were in compliant with everything unless the staff found specific conditions that they hadn't met. Can you please specify exactly, is it just the ADA and the landscaping, or I thought I heard a third one?
the director was pointing out that there was a item for the sign, and so the sign wasn't, I don't know, it looks like a portable sign, which is a kind of sign that's not allowed in county code. So the requirement was either to remove it or make it permanent. If I remember, I think the sign is out in the NDOT right away too, but I'm not sure if that's.
It comes across the ditch right there
Yeah,
when you're
so-
on the entranceway. It's been powder coated blue because our neighbor smoked it with his vehicle, which was nice. They made it look really nice. But it's actually mounted to concrete in there. There's like they had bolt holes. They poured like a little concrete pad when we bought it, and it's just bolted down right there so it doesn't blow over.
So it's the three issues that we're looking at: ADA compliant, landscape in the front, and the signage. Is that correct? Those are the three things that have not been met?
I believe so.
With that said, do you need a year to complete everything? Or what is
No.
a time frame you think that,
A sign actually probably would be a good idea. That sounds like a fun project.
what is a time frame, sir, that you could be in compliance? Are you needing another year, or do you
No.
think 3 months, 6 months?
We could do 3 months. Yeah, it's pretty simple to do those things. The landscaping, though, we'll have a discussion on that one.
Perfect. I'll open it back up to the board for any further questions, please.
One final question of staff. I mean, in this case, we've already got an annual review set. It's in place. I mean, basically, we wouldn't have to set anything else up. As long as we do not release this, he'd come back for his annual review, be able to have enough time to be able to finish up these items that are needed. Because that's what our annual review is for, correct? To make sure that everything is, all the conditions have been met and everything is in place. So we'd like to see it sooner than later, but we've already got an annual review in place.
It's warm now, so concrete works a lot better when it's warm, so that's an easy thing to solve. The sign, I think I have to get a permit for that, I believe. And there's probably going to be some rules to that, so I'm going to need to know what those are because I kind of go a little bigger than I probably should sometimes, so.
Gotcha. Go ahead, Steph.
I mean, I think I'm with Jeff. Just leave it at a year. We'll get with Mr. Marshall here in the next week or two. We'll go over the landscape, get the requirements on the sign, get him lined out, and then he can proceed with getting those taken care of.
We might be able to fill in the ditch, too. That'd be kind of nice.
All right, with that said, and the board having no more questions, I'd like to open it up for public comment. Is there any? Seeing that there is none, can I entertain a motion?
Madam Chair, Joe Frey for the record. I move to have another annual review on this special use permit 1 year from now.
There's been a motion by Commissioner Frey and seconded by Commissioner Goings. All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? Pass 5-0. Thank you for your time.
You're welcome.
And thank you for coming this evening.
I know I made it. This mic.
We'll move on to old business, item number 8B, consideration and possible action regarding review of a special use permit, SUP 1091, for a multi-tenant business complex previously granted to Rigoberto Uribe and Maria Herrera of Desert Properties, RUS, on June 12, 2024. The property is located at 5070 Reno Highway, Assessor's Parcel Number 008-531-90. A condition for approval was annual review until the Planning Commission determines it is no longer necessary. The Planning Commission, at their December 10th, 2025 meeting, recommended another review in 3 months to review the progress towards the meeting the rest of the conditions that had not been met. Is there anyone present? Thank you for coming forward. If you can go ahead and light up your mic and state your name. All three of you will need to state your name and an address, please.
Maria Herrera.
Rigoberto Uribe. Jorge Cruz from Silver State Construction.
address for the record. And then afterwards, turn your mics off or they'll keep feeding back.
57 the Reno Highway.
57 Reno Highway.
And I'll turn it over to staff, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Randy Hines again for the record. In December, we had discussed what still needed to be done on this special use permit. It was the septic system needed to be permitted to the state and installed. I think it was mentioned to be installed. We had coordination with Division of Water Resources regarding their well. Their well is a residential well, needs to be ran through the state for a community well. And we also talked about the NDOT's along the NDOT right of way. We met with the owner and the contractor, I think twice since then. I know that they have submitted the septic plans to the state. They just have not got the approved plans yet. In speaking with them tonight, it looks like they've got the septic, all the materials on order for the septic system. Just got to get that permit from the state so they can get it built. They have talked with the state regarding their well, and apparently there was supposed to be some email correspondence back to the department. We have not received that yet, so they need to look into that. And the stuff in the highway, along the highway, again, it was if improvements are within the highway right away, they would need an encroachment permit. If they're on their property, they don't need an encroachment permit. It just needs to be installed, and that was that split rail or some sort of fencing along the highway, so we can reduce that approach down to the single approach on the west. And that's kind of where it sits today, and they're here to give you any other updates other than that.
Thank you, Director Hines. I'd like to open it up. Do you guys have anything to add to that?
Well, the only thing, like he say, we're still waiting for those permits, and since we find out when we meet with Randy in January this year, is when we find out when is the right away they don't have to be in the end that property. We just can continue doing the landscape. So the same engineer we hired to design the septic system, he's wanna start doing the survey next week. So we should have an answer to building department soon.
Thank you, sir. Go ahead and turn off your mic, or you did, or somebody
Madam
did. Wonderful,
Chair,
thank you. Oh, go ahead.
I'm going to follow up on that. Again, at the meeting, we kind of encouraged them that, 3 months is a little fast. And I think that's kind of where we're sitting today. When you're dealing with other agencies, they just take time to get that done. So again, permits are in there. We just got to get approved and get clarification from the state before we can proceed. So, but we did mention that, could take longer back in December. I think Mr. Nelson had mentioned that, taking longer, especially for the septic system.
How many tenants do you have at this time, and have you received any new tenants?
2 tenants, but one is in April, or this is their last month, so they're leaving in April, and I just have one.
And those are both that you can see from the road. It looks like one tenant is on the left and one tenant is on the right. Is that correct?
Yeah, the right one is leaving and the left one is staying.
All right, thank you for that. I'll open it up to the board, please.
Jeff Goings for the record, and a little bit of clarification from what Director Hines was talking about. I think the reason we pushed this a little faster is so that we could get some action. That because we were headed in a very stagnant spot. And I sat on this board when you folks came forward, and I felt like we were really being generous because you already had a tenant in place at that time and didn't have any of the permitting or anything in place at that time. And we were able to get you this special use permit so that your tenant didn't have to move. And that's why we had it done in 3 months. So, I mean, realistically, we understand that it's going to take a little longer. That was a push to get you moving forward. And I would say that, the annual review is probably going to be fine because I do believe that it is going to take some time to get this finished up. But I'd hate to see you guys come back here in a year and still not be completed with these items, because I think that will be frustrating for much of this board, because we went a full year with very little done.
Anyone else on the board?
Madam Chair, Vic Ansotagi for the record. Staff, Diane specifically, we had talked about making sure if we do this as an annual review, that we line up the timeline to help staff out a little bit. So would that be the December 10th date?
Their permit was actually approved, I believe, in June. So if you want to have another review as the annual review, it would be June.
Copy.
From
Thanks.
when it was approved.
Okay. Thank you, Diane.
Seeing that the board has no more to add, is there any public comment? Seeing that there is none, can I entertain a motion?
Madam Chair, Jeff Goings for the record. I move that we maintain the annual review on this property until all conditions have been met.
Motion has been entertained by Commissioner Goings, seconded by Commissioner Fray. All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? Pass 5-0. Thank you guys for taking the time to come in this evening.
Madam
We'll see
Chair.
you back, it looks like June 12th.
Dean Patterson for the record. I just want to confirm with everybody that we're talking coming back in June, and that, hopefully you'll have a lot more done. Maybe the fence along the right-of-way, along the highway, and the septic system. And so, hopefully you'll be able to get a lot of this done.
Well, like I said, actual Randy, either myself and the owners, we met with the state last week, on March 4th. And it's when we get a letter, they working hard, since they got only one.
Can you
One
talk
is-
into the mic so we can get you on record, please? Thank you.
Yeah. So since they got only one inspector, that's why they take a little bit longer. And it's when we decide, to make a meeting in the office, and we get this paper from him. He's positive he's gonna get a permit for me in March, no later than April, the first week in April. And soon as we get that, we already place an order, we have all the material on board.
Perfect, that
So
sounds great.
these guys, they need only 5 days for delivery.
That's great. So we have down that your annual review is June 12th.
Yeah.
June 12th of 2026 will be 2 years, and we will see you in June.
Okay.
Thank you for your time and for coming this evening. Item number 8, old business, C, 8C, consideration and possible action regarding a renewal request for a temporary use permit, TUP 377, previously granted on March 11th of 2020 to Gary Sinclair for a temporary residence while constructing a home. This property is located at 1015 Dean Lane, Assessor's Parcel Number 008-532-40. The applicant has not been able to make significant progress towards construction of the primary residence since the last renewal. He requests that an extension of this permit. Is there anyone here to speak on the behalf of this TUP? All right, I'll go ahead and turn it over to staff.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Randy Hines again for the record. As you stated, this is a TUP that was opened in March of 2020 for home construction. We'd reached out to the applicants. They texted us today, and I'm going to read the text regarding their application for an extension. It says, "Good morning. This is Annalee and Gary Sinclair at 1015 Dean Lane. We will not be able to attend the meeting tonight. This is our last day before we turn over our restaurant building and are working all day. We will not be applying for this temporary use permit this year. We will be removing our RV, animals, and some of our stuff after we slowly clean our property. My husband is diabetic, got neuropathy, and just got done 2 eye surgeries. When we are ready to build a house, we will apply and pay all your fees. Thank you. Thank you for your time and consideration, Annalee and Gary Sinclair." With that being said, we've asked them for a timeline on when they are going to have their RV and the animals and stuff off the property. We will be terminating that TUP since they are not asking for a renewal. Once that's finalized, they have 90 days per Churchill County Code to be in an RV. They have 90 days to be off the property. We'll inform them of that. And I did want to point out that on February 23rd of 2026, there was a fire at the site, at the parcel. And on there we have, and I think, was this included up in there?
It was part of the packet.
Okay,
I
so it was part of
believe.
the packet,
Or
but
no, it was ready to give to them, but I didn't give it
Yeah.
because they were not going to request it.
But I did want to point out that if you guys read this, there was some, we had sent out code enforcement and building, and there was, and again, with all RVs and stuff, there was extension cords laying on the ground and weathered extension cords. And I don't know exactly sure what started the fire, but again, there was a fire on the property, and I think that's kind of, the reason why they're relocating. So with that, I can answer any questions.
I'd like to open it up to the board.
Dennis Mills for the record. So Randy Dean, you're asking them the question of when they expect to be out. What do you recommend we do to help support your giving them a time to get out but still be able to have a reasonable enforcement action? Do you have a recommendation for the timeline? I mean, do we just say, okay, we're going to cancel the TUP? That means they have 90 days, right?
They have
Do
90
we,
days.
do we say, let's continue the TUP for 1 month and then give them 90 days? It sounds to me like your implication is that we cancel the TUP and that's it.
Correct.
But you had made the note that you're contacting to find out when they're going to get out. I
Correct.
think that was just information.
Yeah,
Not a
we're
recommendation.
going to find out. We're trying to get them to give us a timeline on when they're going to be out.
Yeah.
And if they say 2 years, then we'll have to sit down with them and say that's not acceptable. You either need to apply for another TUP or. But
Okay.
again, if you're this has been going on for 6 years, and that's the issue, right? Nothing's been done. Nothing's been done in 6 years. So that's why we're going to say, hey, you have 90 days to be off the property, and then from there we just have to do what we have to do.
So our question is, are you going to serve them something to say 90 days, or do we need to start a revocation so that the process gets started?
We're going to terminate the TUP, and then we will tell them they have 90 days to be off the property.
Got it.
So you guys are terminating that like within the next 10 days, immediately? Okay, perfect.
I just want
We just want to get it on
Clarif-
record so that we did talk to council, and I don't believe that anything needs to be done on Old Business 8C, correct?
Just to clarify about TUPs, TUPs last 1 year. If it's not renewed, it goes away. There's no terminating, you don't have to do anything, it's just done. If it's, the only thing that you would do is approve it again. And of course, we've had this interaction between old ones that are carrying over into the new system where the TUPs are administratively approved. However, this one has been kind of coming before you. But it would operate the same. If no action's taken, it's done.
Wonderful, thank you for answering that. Is there any other questions? Yes.
My only question is of council here again, is because it's an agenda item, do we have to, I mean, there's no action needed, but because it's an agenda item, do we need to say we're not going to have any action on that agenda item?
You, excuse me, just because it's for possible action, doesn't mean you
Okay.
need to actually take any
Gotcha.
action, so, yeah.
Wonderful, thank you for all the clarification. I'd like to ask for public comment. Seeing that there is none, we will move on to 9, new business, which there is no new business this evening, so we'll move on to item number 10, code changes. A, consideration and possible action regarding Bill 2026. A, ordinances 22, 32, 37, 39, 63, and 74. Title, an ordinance making corrections, deletions, additions, and minor revisions to Title 9, Public Peace, Morale, and Welfare, Section 9.12, Adult Entertainment, Title 14, Buildings and Construction, Section 14.04, Building Permits, Section 14.12, Building Code, Section 14.16, manufactured homes and mobile home installation requirements. Title 16, Consolidated Development Code, Section 16.08, zoning and land use. Section 16.12, division of land. Section 16.16, development standards. Section 16.24, definitions and development of Churchill County Public Works design manual document, where design standards and standard details will be moved from the code to the new document. In summary, an ordinance amending, adding, and deleting definitions, regulations, and procedures related to Consolidated Development Code and other items related to Churchill County Code. I'd like to turn it over to staff.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Again, Randy Hines. Diana will bring up the document. It's a little long, and you guys, we've already, this was done in our workshop. Was it last month or the month before? So we've already gone through all this information. You'll know there's some additional information that's in here that doesn't really pertain to the planning. More so Title 14. Those are all building, but it's part of our department, so that it's included in these code changes. You guys can stop me whenever you like if you want more clarification, but I'm going to kind of go through page by page and give you a brief summary of what these changes are for, or why we're doing them. So on the first page, there we go. So on the first page, we have section 9.12.050 special use permit. This is a little bit of cleanup in Title 9 from our industrial code changes we did last fall. The 14 sections, which encompass page 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 are all Title 14, which is the building department section in code. So you guys, that's more for the BOCC when we get it to there. So we can go to page 6, or is that it right there? Yeah, so section 1608.050.4, general administrative procedures. These were kind of cleanup from the industrial code changes. We kind of took out temporary use permits, minor variances, or administrative abandonments. We did for administrative reviews. We don't have a public hearing for administrative reviews. It's as the date of the administrative decision. Minor administrative reviews, we moved the temporary use permits from the hold on. For the minor administrative reviews, we added temporary use permit and minor variances. Next page. Oh no, I think you're good right there, Diane. Special use permit 1608.080. This one is more for clarification. So currently, now we have 3 SUPs. We have a minor, a general, and a major. The minor we've used for more home-based business in the past. So really, we have now a definition of what a minor SUP would be. And these applications include proposals with minimal change to the site and having minimal impacts. And it includes home-based businesses that cannot meet certain conditions of a home business permit. And then we took the administrative special use permit out of there because that's no longer there anymore. 1608.160, this is the E1 clarification that we had a discussion about. This is being completely deleted, and this new definition or clarification is in there, and it's to be consistent with Title 13 and the Master Code. I think in the previous one it says that an E1 has a minimum lot size of 1 acre, and that doesn't really follow the master plan, nor does it follow Title 13. So we made this more clear to follow the other sections. 16. The next page we have 16.12.040 parcel maps, map of division into large parcel. Again, these are just clarification for a second or subsequent parcel maps. Again, we added a point D in there for agricultural residential development, proposing any parcels of less than 5 acres A second or subsequent parcel map is only permitted if proposing 4 or fewer parcels and more than 5 years have passed since the previous parcel map was recorded. Proposals not meeting this standard may be reviewed as a subdivision. So again, just to add some more clarity in that section. 16.1 point or 0.12.040.3 planned unit developments. Again, this is kind of cleanup. We had just I in there. We needed to add the I1, I2, and I3. 16.010.7 streets and storm drains. This is where we talked, and this is minimum access roads. And we added some clarification. We cleaned up a little bit of verbiage and then added a little bit in here. Basically talking about the length. So we've got the minimum access road shall be provided, shall not exceed 750 feet. We deleted and kind of reworded that. The road, we've also added into 3, road shall be a dead end and an adequate approved turnaround per the International Fire Code latest edition or approved by the Churchill Fire Marshal shall be provided. Again, we want to ensure that that's a dead end and that can't be extended into a future phase. We did remove the 60-foot unencumbered road easement through the last parcel shall be provided. And then we put in there a note as a separate road easement shall be provided to meet road standards in CCC 16.12.040 A, B, and C. So essentially, if there is a road that can go into a development in the future, it needs to have the right right-of-way or the correct right-of-way per that code section. 16.16.015 design standards and illustrations. Again, these are all just being deleted out of code. As we discussed in the workshop, we're going from these 11 or 12 details to 120 or 112, I think, is what we're doing. Those will be done in that design document that you had talked about, or the design standard document. So these are just getting deleted out of code. Um, 16.020.1 intensity and dimension standards. So again, we have this minimum average lot width. In the R1, we had a 100/80, and we were changing that to an NA. Those are smaller parcels. They're 7,000 square feet. It's kind of hard to have an average lot width of 100 feet on a 7,000 square foot lot. So, because typically those guys are getting skinnier lots, and they're going to be like a 70 by 100. So if you had a 100-foot lot width, then you need probably about 100 foot to get your setbacks for yards. You're looking at a minimum lot width of 10,000. So the lot widths don't really work in those areas. Same thing with R2. Those are 5,000 square feet, and again, we have a 60-foot minimum lot width, and those lots are typically 50 by 100 when they lay those out. Next page, we took the industrial out, and then we added the I1, I2, and I3. And again, that's from our industrial section. We have note 2, where we have the minimum average width for those lands with frontages abutting a cul-de-sac. We also added a knuckle, and we showed you that in the workshop, or a 90-degree bend in a road. So if a road goes up and it's just got a 90 in it without like a stop sign, it's just a curve. Those lot widths have different requirements. So I did note that we got to take this 90-degree out. I didn't take it out of the other one. So there'll be a revision in that, Diane, before we send that to the board, if we can make that change. Next page.
I think they will need to state that in their motion.
Okay. Next page, we revised note 9, and this really was to have more clarification on the minimum lot size. And I'll kind of read it. It says minimum lot size shall be stated as in the table only if both community sewer and water services are provided. So basically what we've done is we've put the minimum lot size that a parcel can have, and this note clarifies that it can be that small if it has water and sewer connections available. If both services are not provided, the minimum lot size shall be as follows: 1/2 acre if either community sewer services provided or community water services provided, along with dry line sewer facilities, and a recorded waiver of protest to the formation of and participation in a sewer financing mechanism and subsequent connection to future sewer services. 2 acres if community sewer or water facilities are not provided, but the director determines that the site qualifies for the infill exception under the master plan of Title 13, and 5 acres if neither A or B apply. So again, just to clarify that minimum lot size. 14, we deleted 14, and then we came back and added 14 to include height limits shall not apply to church spires, silos, belfries, cupolas, domes, chimneys, flues, flagpoles, water towers, radio towers, and the like exception where they may be deemed a hazard. So again, we have minimum height requirements, and those have exception with those exceptions. 16.16.020.6 advertising signs. Again, this was cleanup from the industrial zone. We added the I1, I2, I3. 16.16.020.8 other development standards for specific land uses. This was the accessory dwelling item that we discussed. We did do some research with other agencies. Other agencies do have ADUs. We're similar with those. I think it's just an in the office determination of what these are, right? We did keep these as we did keep some clarifications in there. On A1, we struck out an administrative special use because that's going to be a conditional zoning permit now. Next page, we have the site plan shall be submitted with a conditional zoning permit, so they have to provide a site plan. And then on the second permanent dwelling on the next page, we have administrative. We took away administrative special use permit because, again, that's no longer there, and now it's a conditional zoning permit. Where the clarification comes in the ADU is in 16.24.010, the definitions generally. And basically, we took some stuff. No, we left it in there. We added some more information in the definition of an accessory dwelling unit. In here, we've got an accessory dwelling unit, detached or attached living quarters of a permanent construction that is clearly subordinate and incidental to the use of the main building on the same parcel for use of residence of the single-family dwelling. Accessory dwelling unit should not exceed 1,000 square feet, measured from the outside walls. A minimum of 1 bathroom must be installed and configured to be used as living space, and a kitchen with or without permanent means of cooking may be installed. So we just want to add a little bit more clarification in there to help us determine what is an ADU and what's not an ADU. We added in this same section for definitions generally, we added some definitions for the conditional zoning permit. Again, as we did with the industrial changes, we added conditional zoning permits, which follow the same procedures as the SUP, but it's an administrative decision and that doesn't come to the Planning Commission. So we added these definitions in here, which kind of follow some as the SUP, but again, we have a minor, a general, and a major, so that we have some definitions in here to get them classified when they come into the office. Again, special use permit has the same definitions as it does in the section. Again, just made those changes as well in the definitions. With that, those are the changes to the code, and we can answer any questions.
Thank you, Director Hines, for all of that, and great job. I would like to open it up to the board, please.
Dennis Mills for the record, just one minor comment. Footnote 9, you've got the word waiver spelled with a different word, so you just want to correct the spelling of the word waiver there. Otherwise, everything looks like we reviewed last month, looks great.
Which page was that?
Where does
it say?
Or which
This
section?
is the footnotes below your table, footnote 9 in 16.16.020.1. Footnote 9. I can show you after the meeting as well, Diane, if need be. The term "a recorded waiver of protest."
It's after the details, Diane.
Yeah,
It's
after the
in
details, footnote 9.
It's after the,
So it's under the footnotes 9.
Yeah. 9A, a recorded waiver of protest. You need to put an I in there for the right word.
Anything else anyone else would like to add on the board?
Joe
Yeah,
Frape.
Madam Chair, Vic Ansodi for the record. Sorry, Joe. Director Hines, what was the 90-degree knuckle we need to amend? Just so we
Yes.
get it right when we make the motion to approve this to the Board of
Yeah,
County Commissioners.
that's on note 2. We have the minimum average lot width for those lands with frontages abutting a cul-de-sac, and then a 90-degree knuckle. Those knuckles can be mid-block as well on a straight road, so we just wanted to make sure that we took the 90-degree out and just said any knuckle that's in a road. So we did it in note 3. I didn't do it in note 2. I missed it.
Thank you, Commissioner Ansodi and Commissioner Frey.
Joe Frey for the record. Commissioner Ansotigi asked my question.
Fantastic. We'll open it up for public comment. Please feel free to sit up at the table. We'll have you push the mic at the bottom of the base there that lights green, and then state your name and address for the record.
There it goes. These things are kind of temperamental. My name is Tom Riggins. I live on Airport Road. I attended your workshop and listened there, and hearing the same things, obviously again tonight, but I would urge this board and the staff to keep in mind the big picture, real world impacts that your decisions make, and I'm specifically the E1 zoning issue. I understand the intent to try to move development into higher density development projects, but part of my occupation is to decide or try to determine what buyers look for, what motivates them to do what they do, and along with that then follows the real estate agents and builders and developers. And a lot of what you're trying to do is well-intentioned, but it seems like it's having the opposite effect. It has to do with human nature and economics. Buyers seem to want, if they want to live on a high-density lot, 6,000, 9,000, 12,000 square feet, they want to live in town where they can walk to most of the services. Since the county doesn't have a public transportation system, that limits trying to create the city in the county. Then that carries on to the builder and developer side. From an economic standpoint, why would a developer put together a project in the county where they have to add another $1 or $2 million to bring utility services in when they can do it in the city and have the services right there? So it doesn't make economic sense for a developer or a builder, or you can say developer builder, to do that. So at some point, instead of turning the crank on developers to carry the burden of you running your utility lines, in many cases where there aren't existing easements adequate to do that, without some county assistance, they're going to continue to look to the city for their development activities. And I can tell you that when you start doing high-density lots, the economic investment up front is extremely high. And the payout is end-loaded. You don't make any money until the last 1 or 2 phases of a project. So adding that extra burden just extends that out further. It creates the need for a bigger bankroll for a developer. And these builders and developers from out of town, which I talk to a lot, don't want to come to Fallon because the market isn't deep enough here. So when you add all these more and more restrictions to, say, the E1 zoning, you're actually having the effect of pushing markets away, or buyers away and developers away from the higher density into the 5 acre, 2 acre, whatever, the larger parcels, which is kind of the opposite, I think, of what this was intended to do to begin with. I know of 3 properties of 20 acres or more that are under the same ownership as they were before the master plan was amended to go with the 5 acre minimum. Those had some expectations of development. 2 of those I know have extremely difficult issues getting either water or sewer to those properties. So basically they've taken away, you're taking away some of their right to use some of that property. And Mr. Goings raised that issue during the workshop, or touched on it, that, you're taking away some rights to the people that thought they had rights before all of these things were placed into effect. I think that's everything I wanted to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Riggins, for your comments. We did forget to start the clock, so you got to speak a lot, and we appreciate what you had to say. Thank you.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
can I just give a little bit of clarification on this part of the code change?
Yes.
So the master plan is, and I think, not the exact date, but 2005-ish is about when the master plan was revised to be 5 acres minimum. So again, it's not something that we're coming up with new. It's Title 16 was never revised to follow the master plan, and that's what we're doing, is we're revising the E1 designation to match with what the master plan says, and Title 13, which is water and sewer. So we're not adding anything. Anything that comes in the office, we always refer back to the master plan, because we're supposed to, and other sections of other titles within the within the code. It's just, and that's why we get confusion for people coming in that have E1 parcels, because they said, well, it says right here I can do 1 acre minimum, and that's why we wanted to do the clarification and the change in Title 16 to conform to the master plan and Title 13. Because either way, we still go to the most stringent one anyway, right? So if 16 says, if 16 says that, and the master plan says 5 acres, we're going to go with the most stringent code or reference in there. So again, we're not trying to change anything. We're just trying to clean it up because it hasn't been cleaned up in X amount of years.
Thank you for clarification. Director Hines, anyone on the board have anything to add to this?
Madam Chair, Jeff Goings for the record. So I'm going to speak to some of what Mr. Riggins was talking about. And my big concern was this E1 property that we had. When you read that E1 zoning, you had half acre if you had a community water sewer system, and or 1 acre. All right, and that is where we started to see, where I saw that we were going to have a lot of problems, because the master plan does not allow for 1 acre parcels. And what we're having is we're having people come in with E1 zoning and trying to get some things approved through planning department, but we can't approve because the master plan already doesn't allow it. And my concern, what my biggest concern was, is this was starting to come in. We ran into 2 or 3 of them already where the owners are coming in and saying, hey, this is my property. I bought it with the assumption that I could do this, and nowhere in the zoning code or in the zoning verbiage did it explain that. So I think that's what this does. That clears up this portion of it. I agree with you a lot. Unfortunately, we have a master plan that's in place that maybe needs to be reviewed later on. But at this point right now, my biggest concern was this E1 zoning and these owners coming in thinking they had the ability to do some things that they didn't have the ability to do. And so I'm hopeful that this clears that up. In my opinion, I think we should have gone back and maybe eliminated the E1 zoning completely. That's neither here nor there.
Yeah, and we talked about that, and it's just, we were trying to get, again, because like you've mentioned, right, we've had 2 or 3 people come in and they have E1 and they want to do 1 acres, and then they're, shut down because they can't do it because we go to the master plan. And again, I think when a lot of people are looking at the planning stuff, they're looking at Title 16, but the code doesn't just involve Title 16, it involves other titles as well. So again, this is more just a cleanup. The intent of these changes more or less is to have more clarity in the code, to clean things up and to reduce some of the headaches for us, right, through the department when we have those, not conflicts, but misunderstandings, if you will. So.
Thank you. Anyone else on the board? I see one lit up.
Dennis Mills for the record. Randy, we raised this briefly a month or two ago when I was remote, so I couldn't cast an eyeball over the rest of the board. While I'm sympathetic to Mr. Reagan's points, I think your point about we have to get this in line with the master plan is kind of the overriding consideration for today. But I think maybe we need to consider for the future, it is really puzzling to me to have a single zoning designation that actually applies to 3 different methods of subdividing a parcel. Anybody that isn't reading the fine print, which of course we all need to do and many of us don't, are going to look at this and see a half acre and not read the footnote that says, well, it's a half acre under very exceptional circumstances. I'm just curious if there's any appetite among the rest of the board members to go back at some point and ask you guys to reconsider whether there's a room here for 3 different E zoning designations, even though it's a pain in the neck to do. Does that make sense to anybody else here?
Yeah, I can respond to that. Again, we had that discussion. And for us to do 3 E zones, I mean that's a considerable amount of work. Not saying that we don't want to do the work. I'm just saying that that's something we couldn't do. That'd be something we'd probably get to you next year, right? To just change from E1 to something else, again, a considerable amount of work. I mean, we did the industrial zone change or the industrial code changes. Took us 7 months to do that, and we're still cleaning up stuff in that. And it's a year now. So we were trying to just again clarify with what we want to do, get some clarification in there, and clean it up what we can, and do it in a relatively quick manner. But I think I agree with you. I think the intention is, to recommend that we look into that at a later date. So I do know that the state, every time 1 acre parcels with wells put a lot of sticks in the ground and a lot of septic systems around. And again, it's kind of a concern for the state, especially in a state where we don't have the water or potentially not have the water. And I think that's part of the requirements of having 5 acre parcels, because again, now you're sticking 1 straw in the ground for a 5 acre parcel and not 5, or you're putting 1 septic in the ground and not 5 in that area. So just for some information for you guys.
One last maybe question or thought. I feel like at some point along the way here, we were supposed to be starting to look at the master plan again, correct? And I think we've gone nowhere with that. So I mean that is something that needs to probably start to slide up the flag up the pole a little bit.
That is correct.
Go ahead, Joe.
Madam Chair, Joe Frey for the record. I'm still trying to think of how to phrase my question, but I think it has something to do with Mr. Riggins' comments about the restriction to invite development into our area. And this question might be for Mr. Riggins if he's willing, if something is zoned E1 and somebody wants to make a little bit larger parcels than what the minimum is on E1, is that allowed? And so is there really a restriction? I mean, because I agree conceptually, like who wants to build, 6,000 square foot lots out in the county? It's just not going to happen. And so if that's the case, I mean, yes, we're following the master plan. in my opinion, maybe it does no harm and no good. Nobody's going to bite. Nobody's going to come and develop that. But I guess I'm kind of not seeing the restriction, exactly how that restriction works or how developers are not wanting to. Madam Chair, is it okay if Mr. Riggins answers possibly?
I think the point of public comment is not to have a discussion with the public, unfortunately.
Madam Chair, I may be able to answer some of that just because of the fact that I sit on the board here, but to Member Frey's question, I've spoken to a lot of the developers as well, and one of the problems that the local developers, especially the local developers, are finding is that with this 5-acre minimum, you have a group that wants to live on these types of lots, but they don't want to live really on a 5-acre lot. What they really want to have is they want to have a 1 or 1.5 acre or a 2-acre lot. And what the developers find is an issue is that they do these 5-acre lots, these people come in, they build their house, they put their shop up, they put their accessory building up, but then they let the other 4.5 acre, or 3.5 acres go wild. And it has a look when you drive down of an unkept, poorly developed development. And so this is one of the things that the local developers that I've spoken to have seemed to have a problem with. And again, I think it comes back to we need to probably be looking at the county's master plan again and bringing these items up, because I don't think these were items that were thought through or anybody knew were going to happen at the time that the master plan was adopted or the current version of the master plan was adopted. So I hope that answers your question, Joe, but that's kind of what I got from the developers that I've spoken to around the valley and outside the valley as well, by the way. Yeah.
Thank you. That does, Mr. Goings.
I just wanted to put some information on a couple subjects that have been talked about. So the reason we have 5-acre zoning, and it was, like we've said, it wasn't in the E1 zone because it was in other pieces of code, one of which is in the code change packet relating to second and subsequent parcel maps. But when you have E1 zoning, you have homes, septics, and wells all very close together. So you can have wells and septics 100 feet, maybe 200 feet apart. That's not far apart. I jokingly talk about, well, that's called recycling. Got water going down and water being sucked back up. So, hopefully you get some cleaning action there in between. So that's one of the reasons why we don't have 1-acre zoning anymore, because you just have everything too close together to actually have good groundwater quality. The other part was folks were talking about, well, if it's E1, then maybe, but it has to be 5-acre. Maybe we should call it something else or give it a new name altogether. E5. I don't know. You guys will figure that out. And there was one other thing, and I cannot remember, but maybe Randy has something to add. So, anyway, it needs some work, but it is kind of what we've had for a very long time. I think E1 probably goes back to the 90s. And so when the changes for, saying we needed 5-acre minimums instead, they just stuck it on the E1 and didn't really kind of take that next step, which is what you folks have been talking about. Maybe some other zoning districts to implement the details.
Madam Chair, if I can just add one more statement, and then we'll let you go. Again, because this is a headache in the department for us, right? Because again, I'm not sure how many times Dean and I had this conversation, because Title 16 says something else than the master plan in Title 13. That is the intent of this, is to make it consistent with the most stringent one as it currently sits today. Again, we're not changing anything. If somebody was to come in today or tomorrow, we're going to tell them 5-acre minimum in their E1, because that's what the master plan says. This just helps clean up code, so we don't have somebody looking at one section and not looking at the other sections. That's the intent of this. Now, if we want, if we go to the board, you guys recommend it for approval, we go to the board, I'll bring up that this was discussion. I'm sure they're going to read the minutes from this. We'll talk about that, and if that's something that we want to explore in the next master plan, which we need to get going on relatively soon, that'll be something that we can do.
I did remember the other item that I wanted to point out. And folks were talking about, well, it's the county. You don't want small lots out in the county. But the reality is that the county has a sewer and water system, so that the area near the city to the northwest, those areas, they really can have those small lots we were talking about. 6,000 acre for some zones, 10,000 acres for others. I mean, not acres, square feet for different zones. And so I get that intuitively you think, oh, it's the county. You're supposed, you should have the larger lots, not the small urban lots. Yet in reality, you can get those in the county because of our sewer and water systems.
Thank you, staff. Anything else to add on from the board? Seeing that there is none, can I entertain a motion, please?
Madam Chair, Vic Ansotigi for the record. I move to recommend approval of Bill 2026-A, ordinances 22, 32, 37, 39, 63, and 74 to the Board of County Commissioners to include removing 90 degree from Note 2 of 16.16.020.1.
There's been a motion made by Commissioner Ansotigi, seconded by Commissioner Goings. All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? It'll pass 5-0, and we'll go for recommendation to the Board of County Commissioners. Moving on to item number 11, Planning Commission item A, consideration and possible action regarding rescheduling the May 13th Wednesday Planning Commission hearing to Wednesday, April 29th, or Thursday, April 30th, 2026. I would like to open this up to the board for discussion. I feel that we should keep and maintain it on Wednesdays, April 29th. What is your thoughts?
Dennis Mills for the record. I had understood that this was being asked for a specific reason, that we might have a new planner at the time and Director Hines might be out of the office at the same time. Rather than put that burden on a new planner with no background in the county, I personally would prefer to shift that to where someone with background in the county staff can speak to the issues.
With that being said, is there any public comment? Seeing that there is none, can I entertain a motion from the board for the changing and rescheduling of the May 13th meeting to April Wednesday the 29th, please?
Madam Chair, Jeff Goings for the record. I move that we reschedule the May 13th, 2026 Planning Commission hearing to April 29th, 2026, which is a Wednesday at 6 o'clock p.m.
Motion first by Commissioner Goings, second by Commissioner Ansotigi. All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? It'll pass 5-0. Item number 12, consent agenda. There are no items on the consent agenda. So we'll go on to item number 13, public comment. I would like to open it up to the public first before I speak. Seeing that there is none, I would like to thank Dean for all that he has done for the county. Did you have public comment? You didn't speak up. I would like to thank Dean for all that he has done. This is his last meeting. He is retiring. Is there anything you'd like to add, Mr. Hines?
Thank you, Madam Chair. No, again, I want to reiterate, again, Dean's last day, I think, is April 14th or something like that. When I came to the department almost 2 years ago, I know about as much planning to be as dangerous. I've learned a lot from Dean over the last 2 years. We've had some good conversations. We've had some heated conversations, and it's been a really good learning experience. And I just wish him the best in his future endeavors as being retired. I kind of envy him a little bit. So, again, thank you everything, Dean. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you. To the board.
Thank you, everybody, for your kind words.
Enjoy.
Madam Chair, Joe Frey for the record. I would like to move forward with getting a little more congruency with this board as far as how we operate meetings. So I would like to propose possibly that you and myself meet with council and kind of decide how much we want to follow Robert's Rules of Order. Just get some consistency as to, just to kind of streamline the meetings a little bit more. And then maybe we could report back to this board, get an item on the agenda for the next meeting.
I concur. Council, do you have anything to say? No. All right, we'll make sure that we meet up with him, and then we can get something on the agenda for the Planning Commission at our next meeting. Is there any other public comment or anything you guys would like to add? Seeing that there is none, meeting is adjourned.